Dr. Christopher Labos is on the line. He's a cardiologist. He's got a degree in epidemiology. He's an all-around good guy and a regular here on CJAD 800. Dr. Labos, thanks for coming back to the show.
Happy to do so. Given the state of the healthcare system, I do what I can.
You very much do. And so I'm worried about entering the healthcare system here. Now, here's why we have you on this morning. I'll tell you, I introduced you right away because I want to tell you the story as I tell it to our listeners. I was playing softball last night, okay? Now, keep in mind, I try and get to softball early. I try and show up half an hour before the game. And I stretch, right? I get on the field. I do my stretches. I try because I'm no spring chicken anymore, okay, doctor? But yesterday was a special day because I was driving back from our big road trip. I spent, 6 or 7 hours in the car driving back from Bangor, Maine. And, so you're sitting in the car. I probably didn't drink as many liquids as I normally do. I probably had just a couple of cups of coffee and not the water and other stuff that I would have in a day. And I get back, it's around 4 o'clock, I get back to Montreal, 7 o'clock got the softball game. It's the playoff game. And I don't want to let my teammates down. It could be the last game of the season if we lose, of course. And I say, I got to be at this game. So I show up for the game. The game's at 7 o'clock. I don't get there as early as I normally do. I do stretching. I would probably say I cut back on stretching. I don't know, maybe five less minutes of stretching than I normally stretch. And I get into a situation where I get a hit. I end up on first base. And then I'm waiting and the next batter is up. The next batter hits a ball. As soon as the batter hits the ball, I take off for second base. So I turn and I push off with my right leg. And I have this sensation. Honestly, Dr. Labos, I thought someone had thrown a ball from somewhere else on the field and drilled me right in my calf, okay? So I get this sharp pain. It feels like a ball has hit me. And I look around. I don't see a ball. And then I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I try and run to second base. I can't run. I can't push off on the right foot. I get unbelievable pain in my calf. And I limp off the field. I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but I asked people on the bench, hey, does anyone have any Advil? And lo and behold, I play with Paul Karwatsky, and his wife, Annie DeMelt, had 2 Advil, and she was watching us play. She gave me 2 Advil. I took 2 Advil right away, and then I limped to my car. I went home, and I elevated. I put some ice on that sucker. Dr. Labos, what's wrong with me?
You're getting old.
This I know.
Yeah, and listen, I am reassured by the fact that you're 2 years older than me and always will be. But no, listen, as we get older, we are more prone to injuries, and it takes longer to recover. Like when you're young, you can fall down a flight of stairs, stand up, brush yourself off, and go about your day. Then you hit 40 and suddenly you sneeze wrong and you have to take a week off work.
Yeah.
These are the things that happen. All of the stuff you mentioned, like the hydration, the stretching beforehand, it's really unclear if that makes any difference. Stretching in particular, people have become very sort of hyper-focused about stretching. It makes a difference in terms of improving your flexibility. So touching your toes is important to your self-esteem. It makes a difference for that. But in terms of injury prevention, it's unclear if it really matters all that much. A lot of the stuff that people say is sort of anecdotal stuff or stuff that they heard and just keeps getting passed down from generation to generation. But there's very little scientific evidence for it. The reality is people do get injured. And when you get injured, there's really not much to do beyond really all the stuff that you said. So you can take an Advil or a Tylenol for pain medication. The advantage of Advil is that it's also an anti-inflammatory, so you probably won't swell up as much. But the other things are really ice and elevation. That's why there's an old mnemonic in medicine, RICE. So rest, ice, compression, elevation. So those are the 4 things you do to try to keep the swelling down and make it a little bit more tolerable.
So what's your best guess here? Did I pull my calf muscle? Did I tear it? I'm worried about a tear and what happens then. What do you think I did?
Well, it's hard to know. And it's hard to know without actually doing imaging. And, an X-ray is not going to help them. So this is an important point for people. X-rays are only useful if you think you broke a bone. So if you didn't break a bone, an X-ray is not going to tell you anything. CTs are not really that helpful in this scenario. It's really an MRI if you want to look for what's called the soft tissue injury, so the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, because they're the only ones that will see if there's sort of a tear in something. And if you were in the U.S., you would have gotten an MRI right away. The reason why we don't do it here is, number one, resource limitation, but also, unless you think it's bad enough that you're going to require surgery, you're not really going to act on the information of an MRI. So most doctors, if you went to an urgent care clinic, would probably say, okay, well, look, if it's not that bad, you put ice on it, just rest it, try not to put too much weight on it, see if it gets better on its own, because most soft tissue injuries will heal with time. You just have to stop putting stress on it. The mistake that a lot of people, especially young people, make is they keep running and they keep trying to perform despite being injured. You see this with a lot of young, athletes that are trying to go pro. They're like, oh, you got to push through the pain. That's probably the worst possible advice, because you're just making a mild injury just worse and turning it into what could essentially turn into a chronic injury at that point.
So I guess my worry is I'm going to go to a doctor and I'll waste my time. I got to make the appointment. I have a family doctor, by the way, but I got to make the appointment. Then I got to go there and they're going to take a look at me and say, you know what? Just wait, see if it gets better. I think that's what they're going to tell me. So should I go see a doctor? I'm not, there's no excruciating pain going on. Obviously, if I try and walk on it, I get that feeling in the calf muscle where I got pain last night, and it's telling me, okay, I can't extend all the way that I want to extend. That's what's happening right now, but it is better today than it was last night.
Yeah, I think the thing you might want to try is you might want to ask Andrew if he can carry you around the station so you don't have to put any weight on the leg. But no, it's essentially that. And I agree. Is your doctor going to say anything different to you? Probably not at this point, especially if it's getting better. And it's unfortunate because, these used to be the quote-unquote easy appointments you would get in your practice, because you need sort of a mix of easy and difficult patients. Otherwise, you would just burn out. But the system has become so overloaded, we just don't see the easy patients anymore, even though they're not unreasonable questions to ask, right? You're just asking for advice from your doctor about what to do. Mm-hmm. And it's doubly unfortunate because, yours is a relatively minor case, and I suspect you are going to get better on your own. And of course, just call me, whatever. But the problem is that for people who have these sort of chronic niggling problems, what do they do if they can't see the doctor? They go on the internet, they start buying miracle cures that don't work. You end up spending and wasting a lot of money on products that are essentially worthless. And that's the big consequence of a healthcare system that is less accessible. People start looking for alternative sources that are usually more expensive and, frankly, ineffective.
I have a text message from a listener. Elias, this happened to me playing soccer. I thought someone kicked me with all their might in the back of my calf. Worst pain. I could barely walk. Days later, I went to the clinic. Contusion, and it was swollen, very badly bruised. Torn muscle, I believe. It was tight for weeks. So, and I'm looking at me. I don't, on the swelling front, it's not that bad, actually, doctor. Compared to my other leg, it is a little bit more swollen, but it's not terrible. And I don't know. I can't even tell if it's bruised. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what is a doctor's going to look? They're going to say the same thing. It's not that bad. Isn't that's what's going to happen? So am I wasting my time if I go?
Yeah, and unfortunately you are. Now, the one thing that I wish we did more of was more telehealth, because this is a very simple Zoom call that you could slip in with somebody, and that would make, and again, I do a lot of telehealth. I am genuinely shocked by how often the patients don't want to do telehealth. They want to come in, although that just may be my demographic that tends to skew a little bit older. But, a lot of these non-urgent stuff really can be handled without you being physically in the office. And it's going to be interesting for me to see at least what happens as a new generation of patients and doctors join the system. Do they start utilizing this technology more?
Is there anything, Dr. Labos, is there anything that if I feel it's okay, Elias, you got to take this seriously? Or do I I mosey on here and just hope if it keeps getting better, I just stay the course?
Yeah, exactly that. If it keeps getting better, it'll get better on its own. If it's not getting better, that's when you would want to think about imaging to see is there something that needs to be intervened upon, because that's the only thing that's going to happen. The question always becomes, do you need a surgical correction, which, they would only do if it was a really bad tear or a meniscal tear or something like that. You probably just have a contusion or maybe a small tear of the muscle.
Dr. Labos, I got to leave it there. Thanks so much for this radio diagnosis. I think, like you said, I'm getting older. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, and you can catch Dr. Labos on Sunday on Weekends with Joanne Vrakas at 7:20.